A warning for our listeners. This episode does contain elements and mention of murder, suicide, and self-harm. Some content mentioned is alleged and in no way deemed factual. This episode was written to provoke education and conversation on the subject presented. If you are experiencing suicidal feelings or thoughts of self-harm, please contact your National Suicide Hotline. For our American listeners, call 1-800-273-8255. It is a 24-hour, toll-free, and confidential hotline. You can also visit their website at suicidepreventionlifeline.org to chat online with a counselor. For our Australian listeners, call Lifeline at 131114 for 24-hour suicide prevention and crises services. For our United Kingdom listeners, call 111 option 2 for mental health support and crises prevention. We care greatly for our listeners, and we want you all to remember that these episodes are simply conspiracy theories that we have researched in the hopes of bringing more awareness to them. We hope you enjoy this latest episode.
I've got to do two buttons. I have to do two buttons. I have to do both the video and the audio.
Is Ryan crying again?
I'm always crying in your eyes.
No, it's not in my eyes. It's a fact.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Jard.
Are we all recording?
Oh, I am. Baby, I've been in 35 seconds already.
Oh my god, I'm at 32. Boys, are you recording?
You know I am. I just cried about it.
Oh, okay. Okay, just making sure. We'll just cut all this excess noise out. It's fine. Oh, are you crying again? Sorry.
Shut the Go get on with it, Jess.
Let me pass you the tissues, but please only use them for your tears and nothing else. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Jarred.
Oh my god. Hi.
We're celebrating a very special day today. Today is Dougie's birthday.
Happy birthday, Dougie.
Wow, the shock from everyone here. Like, you guys are terrible friends.
Fuck me, I knew it was as well. Fuck, I thought it was tomorrow.
Well, technically
awful.
for us, it
is.
it's currently Dougie's birthday for him.
Yeah.
I've been in it half an hour. Okay, happy birthday, Dougie.
Damn.
Shit me up.
Happy birthday, Dougie!
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Cheers.
And here you are flashing us. I think for your birthday, I think it should be the other way around, shouldn't it?
Yeah, Dougie showed us his butt
Yeah.
a few minutes ago.
That was my birthday present from him.
So last week we got Amber's nipple. This week we had Dougie's butt.
I'll almost show you guys my tits again next week. Like that one
There we
time
go.
that I almost showed you guys a couple months ago.
Yeah, that was very close.
It was just
I'll almost show you guys again next week.
It was just a little bit of side boob. That's
Side boob
I mean-
ain't never hurt anyone.
I mean, I've not got much to show
No.
you guys. I mean, if I turn sideways, I disappear. I'm that thin, so I can't really show you that much.
No one's requesting anything from you, Ryan.
I'm just.
I will request.
I'm just kidding.
I'll request Ryan in his robe with his chest hair out.
That's not new.
Again. At least it looks luxurious.
That's not a novelty. We get that like every week.
That's a lot. You guys had to request that I put a shirt on now when we do the podcast. My God.
Please, Ryan Powers, put it away. Damn. So, how's everyone doing today?
Oh,
Yes.
something I forgot to say in the group chat, but I can say now. So my son said a new word today.
Ooh. Is it butt?
No.
What?
Okay, never mind. Go on.
He did not say that. But he did say well, technically he said the word and he said it to his nana, and I don't.
Did
know
he
what
say it in the right
context he was saying.
context?
I don't know what context he was saying it in. I know that he was having a conversation with her, and he used the word f***ing, and it probably was an emphasis to maybe something getting on his f***ing nerves or something. I don't know, because it's kind of how I talk. And I was like, yo, look, I was like, don't even sweat it. I already know he heard it from me, and I've been trying, but obviously not hard enough. So I'm getting all of my cussing out in this episode today, so I won't say it for the rest of the week. Sorry, Ryan.
More work for me. Give me something to do in my downtime. Well, downtime, isolation, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Oh, did you want to bring that up?
Yeah, well, I can do. I'll keep it to a minimum, obviously, because we want to avoid it every week. But I'm a week in to my 2 weeks isolation period because, as you guys know, I was in close contact with somebody who has the virus, which was later revealed it was actually somebody I served at work, which is all fun and games. I was with them for near about an hour, and I was I was in a meter's distance. If I was tailoring them, I would have been right against them as a person. So that's fun. It's only been 7 days and I'm already going insane. But it's good. It's good. Trying to keep myself busy as best I can. So yeah, not much else to report on that one, really.
Well, then we cuss all we want to. We got to give him
out
work.
of your room yet?
I am free to leave my bedroom. Yeah, when I did start coughing, that was a bit of a worry. And naturally, she was like, "You can stay in your room. Like I'm locking you in basically from the outside." We made jokes out of it. We make a light of the situation, trying not to think on it too much. But yeah, no, so if I do cough during the episode, don't give me the shifty eyes, like I'm not thinking about it. It happens. I may, but yeah.
Well, that's 2 out of 4 that I've had a scare so far. Great.
Yeah.
Great. So if you guys like our show, be sure to follow us on social media. Our Instagram is at jarred.podcast. And Twitter is at jarredofficial. And I just remembered that we forgot to post again today.
Oh, crap.
Sad.
Uh-oh. It's fine.
Oh,
It's fine.
you get that.
It's fine. Dougie, be quiet. You
She'll
don't
be right, mate.
you don't post.
She'll be
Shut up.
apples.
So I guess it's my turn today.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something else I wanted to mention. Oh, right. Sad news. Eddie Van Halen died.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes along with my topic today. So, yeah. I feel like every week it's someone else that we're coming on the show and we're like, oh, by the way, so-and-so died.
I just thought that when you said that last week it was Trump had COVID. The week before that it was Ruth. What was it?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Thank you.
Wasn't there someone last week too, or no?
No, that was Trump having COVID.
No, it was just us celebrating Trump getting COVID.
I didn't celebrate. I just said he had it. All I said.
Oh.
It's fine. I'm just fed up. So, it's fine.
I will say this, and I'll shut up, I promise. Anyone listening, if you have not voted, please vote, and that's it.
And don't vote for
Use
Kanye,
your
please.
voice.
Please.
No matter in which way you use your voice, use it. Go vote.
You're not going to tell him not to vote for Kanye?
Oh, I mean, don't do that.
Is he still running?
Yes, he is.
Is he on the
wait.
ballot? I mean, I know he wasn't. I know he at least did not make it to the North Carolina ballot. I can't speak for any other states, but is he on any ballots?
I saw an article today or yesterday about his name. No, he's not officially on the ballots, but people have been writing his name in.
I saw him.
Like a write-in.
I saw a
Yeah,
tweet.
they do give you the option.
I saw a tweet that he put out. He took a photo. I think it was of his friend's ballot card, like at the bottom half where it says, although like they'd written Kanye West, and he was. I don't know what he said, but I was just like, oh dear. Just breeze by that.
All I'm going to say on the subject is that he in the past has endorsed Donald Trump. So I just feel like this is his kind of like long way around to get people to vote for Trump. Because essentially a vote for Kanye is thrown to Trump pretty much because it's a waste
Right.
of a vote. So
I heard somebody else say that as well.
that's just my conspiracy theory. So
I don't think it's far off.
On the subject now, Jess, am I allowed finally to ask you, what's your topic for today? I've asked you, this is like the third time, and every other time you've told me to go myself.
you make it sound like you've been asking me for like 3 months. You've literally been bombarding me tonight.
Well, yeah, because I haven't known. I want to know.
I mean, I guess I have to tell you guys sometime. But I've already mentioned it before in the past, so I am going to be talking. What?
No, I think I've realised now.
What do you think it is?
Kurt Cobain?
There you go. Finally, you're using all 2 brain cells that you got.
I've got 2. I've got 2?
Teamwork makes the dream work when it comes to those cells, man.
I have a sideline conspiracy theory that Ryan only has 2 brain cells actually, and one is me and one is Amber. And that's it. And even combined, we don't account for much.
I'm not even gonna argue that.
I wouldn't even class it as the brain cells. Jess is the devil, Amber is the angel on my shoulders. That's all you two are. That's
Yeah.
Amber just coddles.
Fact.
That's why you like her more. Shut up.
I can't.
Amber's like, oh, honey, you're so stupid. And I'm like, you're stupid.
Yeah, Amber puts it, she sugarcoats it like, you're so pretty. Which is basically saying to me, yeah, I'm dumb as whereas you just bluntly outright tell me, you're thick as pig
It's tough love.
Oh, it's so funny because it's true.
I found it's more effective to get people to do stuff and to listen when you're mean to them. So that's my life motto.
It's like that's Jess's form of tough love, but it's more just insulting love.
Gets the job done, though.
It does. It's worked for years between me and her.
I'm not going to say it's gotten its job done with Ryan because we'll talk about that at a later time, but whatever. So anyway,
Ouch! That one hurt.
today I am talking. Shut up. I'm talking.
Oh, he's so small. Oh.
Are you done?
Me? Yeah.
You look like a hamster down there.
Thank you.
Ryan's about to leave. Ryan's like, I'm gonna head out.
No, I'm good. I'm strong. I'm resilient. I'm. Don't give me that look. Don't give me that look. Don't give me that look. It's called self-confidence and self-boosting.
So anyway,
Yeah.
I today am talking about Kurt Cobain's death. And I'm not going to say his suicide because I'm going to let you guys decide. That rhymed. Oh, God.
You already look like you want to break down.
Me or Jess?
I have tried to piece this together in an orderly fashion and chronologically. My main goal is to not sound like I'm bouncing around, and it's not to blow up. I don't want to sound like I'm like going back and forth. So I tried to assemble everything like in a timeline. So, is there anyone here who is not familiar with Kurt Cobain? Because if you are, you can leave.
All right, see ya.
Ryan raised his hand.
Ryan's leaving.
Is Ryan really not familiar with Kurt Cobain? Because what am I even doing here?
Really disappointed.
Okay, I'm gonna give you context. I know of Kurt Cobain. Okay.
Okay.
Do I know the story? I probably know his music if I listen to it. I literally know of his suicide, in quotes. That's it. I know nothing else about the topic, about him as a person, nothing. I am very
So you don't
uneducated.
even know, like, the names of any of his songs?
Smells Like Teen Spirit. Come on, dude. You are a 90s baby.
This is what I mean. If I heard it, I would know it, but I don't know him that well enough to know the songs off by heart by just the titles.
I grew up on that like our two rock stations when I was growing up in our city, it was 96 Rock and Rock 103, and my dad was always listening to one of those in the car when we were together, and they were always playing Nirvana. One thing or another by Nirvana is always on the radio. So I mean, I would try to give you the benefit of the doubt for being born after he died, but I mean, I didn't even really start remembering his music until after he died, so what's your excuse?
But I mean, like, even then...
I didn't realize I had 2 brain cells. I thought I only had 1.
You're welcome for this brand new information.
Thank you.
Amber, do you remember when he died? We were really young.
No, I don't remember when he died. I will say I feel like I kind of remember my mom watching a little bit of it on like MTV News.
Yeah, same.
When that was a thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't like enough for me to like understand.
It was one of those things growing up. Like it was something that followed us from the time that we could actually start remembering stuff.
Yeah.
Throughout childhood. Like, it's always been a part of our lives, pretty much.
Right.
We don't remember any part of our lives where he was alive.
When was it?
Basically.
What year was it?
1994.
Yeah,
Dougie, do you remember when he died?
Oh, not specifics. I do remember him dying. I cannot remember
So, okay, like...
any of the main details or anything like that, but...
Well, I'm just thinking about
I do remember when he died.
Like, the difference between... Obviously, the impact was different between him and Princess Diana, but you remembered, like, the whole Princess Diana thing. Like, that was, like, a global upset. So, did it feel like it had a different or, like, way smaller impact when he died over in Australia?
Oh, yeah, no, it was more... Yeah, we've lost another brilliant musician, stuff like that. But
did you like his
there
music?
was no... Wasn't the biggest fan. I didn't mind it, but I was never the biggest Nirvana fan. Back then, I didn't really have much for taste. I was all over the place. Not like now. But yeah, no, look, they were huge, and yeah, it was a shock to everyone when he died. So, but apart from that, yeah, I don't really know specifics about it or anything like that. Well, I don't remember
Well, I'm here to learn
much
ya.
about that.
Learn ya?
Cool.
So, I wasn't really prepared for not everyone here to be, like, more familiar, Ryan. But
I felt like I just got called out in front of the class. I'm sorry.
I did
Pay attention.
I did a little bit of prep. I'm not going to dig into his earlier life as much as I did with Diana. I'm not going to, like, get into all that, because that's very time consuming, honestly. So, he was born in 1967. He grew up in Aberdeen, Washington, which a lot of people from that area, I don't know if you guys overseas are familiar, but the Washington, Oregon area, it's very dreary, like constantly. Very rainy, very cloudy. It's like living in the UK
I
365.
was just about to say, like, the UK. Rainy, dreary.
So, according to a lot of people he knew that lived in Aberdeen, it was rainy and dreary, whatever, like 9 months out of the year at least. And there was never anything to do, which also accounts for why so many popular bands came out of the Washington area in the early 90s in terms of like grunge bands. Like you had Nirvana, you had Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, like all these popular rock bands from the early 90s came out of that same area. Because they didn't have anything better to do other than sit inside and learn how to play, like, instruments. So, yeah. And his friends growing up, they said that it wasn't uncommon for people from that area to be depressed. It's like the way the weather was, everyone was depressed all the time, pretty much.
I mean, that
So-
makes sense because, I mean, we get, like, seasonal depression. And
Yeah.
It's because we can't go outside and get in the sunlight or, you know, do whatever.
I cannot imagine living somewhere like that. Like, if it's, like, gray outside, I just want to die. Like, I need sun. I cannot imagine living there at all.
Sounds just like home.
Cannot relate.
Poor
No.
Ryan.
So, he had various illnesses and both physical and mental afflictions all like throughout his life. He had chronic bronchitis and severe pain associated with a undiagnosed stomach condition, and he struggled with alcoholism, drug use, depression, and according to his cousin who was a nurse, he also had bipolar disorder. So there were a lot of times over the years where his stomach pain was an issue, and you know, he had been quoted as saying that he wanted to kill himself because of it. He was in so much pain, he felt suicidal over it, like he just wanted the pain to go away. And no one, like, he couldn't get a proper diagnosis, I guess. But then finally in December of 93, he did an interview and they asked him about his stomach pain, and he said it had finally been diagnosed and he had finally gotten an appropriate prescription by his doctor, and the pain was gone. Like, it wasn't an issue anymore. So, and also from what I've seen, none of his closest friends or family members ever described or considered him to be suicidal. Like, even with as angsty as he seemed to the public, like to us little people, like the fans, his closer people, they did not see him as being suicidal or that kind of depressed. A little background on Nirvana. It was founded in 1987, and they had their big breakthrough in the early 90s. And their first manager, he also said he didn't see Kurt as being depressed at all, and if anything, he was optimistic. everyone described him. He was quiet, kind of timid, but he was really nice to be around. Like, he was a really nice guy, pretty much. I'm trying to cut out the ums. I'm sorry. I'm trying, but I'm struggling. So, Courtney Love came into the picture. I think they originally met in like 87 or 89, but they were acquaintances, but they actually met a couple years later. They started dating in late 1991, and I don't know how many of you here are familiar, but she also had her own band, Hole, which...
Yup.
I did like one of their songs. It was probably the only song they were popular for. I don't even remember what it's called now.
Yep.
But yeah, she was in her own band.
Don't make me over. I'm done.
Yeah. I didn't realize the timeline of their relationship until I started digging into all this. They started dating in late 1991, and then they got married in February 92. And then their first and only kid, a daughter, Frances, she was born in August of 92. So, dating, married, kid, all within like a year. Pretty much.
That's insane.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. And whenever they first took up together, it was more or less projected that she was going to become the superstar of the two of them. So, like, they did the prenuptial agreement according to that projection. But it actually ended up going opposite, and she kind of, like, fell back into the shadow, and he's the one that became the worldwide superstar. So not what she was expecting at all. Okay. They had a very, very up and down relationship. Very tumultuous. Initially, they bonded over drug use, pretty much. They were both very regular heroin users. And by the time he died in April of 94, there had been a lot of talk about he wanted to leave her. He wanted to get a divorce. Like, he just wanted to be done with it, pretty much. And basically, if they got divorced based on their prenuptial agreement, she would get a very measly amount. Like, she wouldn't get very much money at all. Right. However, if Kurt were to die, she stood to inherit tens of millions of dollars, at least. So I've put together a little bit of a timeline. Starts a little over a month before his death. So on March 4th, Kurt called his and Courtney's entertainment attorney or lawyer. Her name's Rosemary Carroll. She's also Frances's godmother, their daughter. And he called her on March 1st to ask her to remove Courtney from his will. Then March 4th, just 3 days later, he overdosed on Rohypnol and champagne in Rome, which I don't know how familiar you guys are with, prescription names, but Rohypnol is roofies. Mm-hmm. So, yep. Yeah. According to, it's going to be so hard to get these names. Courtney. According to Courtney, after that overdose, Kurt was in a coma for 20 hours, and I don't know how this worked out. He was in a coma for 20 hours and legally dead. I don't know. That's just what I read. Okay. I'll go ahead and say my sources. I got this from Wikipedia. I got this there was an article. It was Live by Bob Wilson. And I got some information from Soaked in Bleach, which is the documentary. And I think some of it came from Kurt and Courtney, the documentary as well. So there's that. So the Rome thing, Courtney said it was a suicide attempt and that he had left her a suicide note, but she burned it. Because she said it, quote, wasn't really nice and talked about divorce, end quote. So I'm sitting here thinking, why is he talking about divorce in a suicide note? I mean, like, you're...
Yeah.
Also, too, I just want to kind of bring up that an overdose with roofies sounds strange.
She claimed that, I think they were in a hotel room or something, and she saw him munching the pills. Like, he took like 50 or 60 of them, according to her. But I think whenever he got taken to the hospital, it was actually confirmed that he did not take that many. So, I don't know.
That's just, that would just be an odd thing. Like, if, for someone who was going to attempt that, for them to pick roofies just sounds odd. You don't hear that a lot.
The Rohypnol is actually a bit of a theme in this one, in this story. This is not its first appearance. So,
All right.
a Dr. Galetta, who was the doctor that treated Kurt when he was in the hospital in Rome, told two authors that, quote, "We can usually tell a suicide attempt. This didn't look like one to me," end quote. So this builds onto the theory that Courtney was trying to build kind of a false history of suicide with him. Like, she was playing the long game with this, pretty much.
Yeah.
Kurt's best friend, Dylan Carlson, who he will be mentioned throughout, so pay attention. He insisted that Kurt was never suicidal at all and plainly stated that the overdose in Rome was indeed an accident. So there's that. In between the time of the overdose in Rome and his death, Kurt returned to the U.S. His home had recently been burglarized. His home was in Lake Washington, in Washington, which I guess maybe is close to Seattle. I didn't look that up. But it had recently been robbed, so Dylan took Kurt to buy a shotgun. But the shotgun was registered in Dylan's name because the police they recently confiscated Kurt's guns. I did not look into why that happened, but that was a thing. But Dylan, he remained adamant that if Kurt had been suicidal, he just did not think that Kurt was suicidal. And if he had felt that he was, he would have never bought the gun and given it to him.
Yep.
Yeah.
So around March 31st or April 1st, in that time, Kurt, he was at like a recovery or a rehab center at that time. And he exited. The one I read on Wikipedia made it sound so casual, like he just checked out. But no, it actually turns out that he was at this recovery center and he left by means of scaling a 6-foot wall. So
Good God.
he kind of escaped.
Wow.
And then he bought a ticket back to Seattle. The Exodus Recovery Center, I think it's in LA or like around that area. So he escaped and then he bought a plane ticket back to Seattle. On April 2nd, he was taken by a taxi to go buy firearm shells or shotgun shells. And this day, the 2nd, it was actually also the last time that Kurt was seen by Callie DeWitt, which Callie was Francis's live-in nanny, their daughter. It was her live-in nanny, as well as longtime friend and ex-boyfriend of Courtney. So,
Right.
I don't know what kind of dynamics are going on here. Okay, I just know the information. That's all.
That's very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, on the 2nd, phone records showed that Courtney spoke to Callie 8 times that day. But when she called the private investigator the next day, it was the first day that she called to hire him. She called him on the 3rd. When she called the private investigator to employ him, she did not tell him that Callie had seen Kurt the previous day. And also, Callie was in their home the whole time Kurt was missing. So, basically, Kurt got out of this rehab center, and then he's missing until he's found dead. Pretty much. Except for Callie, who saw him, like the 1st or the 2nd, and no one told anyone. I don't know why. So, the next day, on April 4th, Courtney called private investigator Tom Grant to ask for his assistance on tracking down the person using her credit card. There were I guess, strange charges on the credit card, and she told him she needed help with it. She called him, and this Tom Grant guy, this is like a recurring thing. Like most of this information that I'm giving you guys actually came from his investigation. He is the person primarily responsible for the Soaked in Bleach documentary. Like, he's the main character in that, pretty much. So she called him and asked for his help, and then he went to meet her, and that's when he found out that she was actually trying to track Kurt down. So I don't know why she like lied about the credit card thing at first to get him to meet her. I don't know why. But this guy... What?
If someone you know is missing, why do you go straight to a private investigator?
That's what I was going to ask.
There was also, I don't know the timeline, I don't know who she called first, but she did file a missing persons report on Kurt. She filed it pretending to be his mom. Like, she called them, and she pretended to be his mom because she felt that they would not take her seriously if they knew it was her. Because at that time, Kurt and Courtney, they were like, I mean, they were super, super famous, but they were also like famously wild cards. Like, everyone knew they were kind of like the whole rock star, like
tumultuous as fuck.
Yeah, like she felt they wouldn't take her seriously if they thought that it was her.
Yeah.
So Tom Grant, the PI, he was actually previously a LA County detective, and he left his job with them, but he left it in good standing. He didn't get fired or anything like that. So during his first meeting with Courtney, Tom said that the first words out of her mouth to him were, quote, "If you leak this to the press, I will sue the fuck out of you," end quote.
Wow.
Yes. Let's see, what else? When she filed the missing persons report, she also told the police that he was missing, suicidal, and he had a shotgun. So, once again, kind of building on the suicide thing with him. Tom Grant, he believed that, like we're saying right now, he believed it was a diversion to paint Kurt as suicidal because he was being set up to be murdered. So after that first meeting, Tom was immediately suspicious of Courtney. He did not trust her from that first meeting in person. He found the circumstances were really suspicious, and after that he started recording every single interaction he had with her, and this continued throughout the duration of his work for her. Like, and pretty much everyone else that was close with them, that was involved with the investigation, his investigation, he recorded everything. Like, there were just hours and hours and hours of tapes. So, according to Courtney, the couple's, their credit card, it was used to purchase 2 plane tickets through United Airlines, but she did not know the destination for the tickets. She said they wouldn't tell her. So, I don't know what that was about. The credit card I read was actually in use from the time that Kurt left the rehab center up until the day his body was discovered. And police still have not confirmed, like, they've not, I guess it says they didn't prove who had been using it. So, I don't know. I'm guessing it was probably Callie, the friend, ex-boyfriend. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it was during that first meeting with Tom, Courtney told him that she planted a fake story in the media that she had overdosed and been hospitalized, hoping that it would scare Kurt out of hiding. And she said, quote, "All publicity is good publicity," end quote.
I don't, I'm not gonna, I don't endorse that.
No.
Yeah.
That's...
Tom said during that meeting, Courtney came across as very controlling and very angry. And he repeatedly offered to go check their home in Lake Washington for Kurt, but she insisted it was a wasted effort, that he wouldn't be there, and they needed to instead check hotels in downtown Seattle. Tom continued to suggest that they needed to set up surveillance at the Lake Washington house in case Kurt, God, I told you guys, in case Kurt showed up, but Courtney rejected the offer time and time again. Like, it was like she did not want him at that house at all. For whatever reason. So on April 6th, this was, I think, 2 days after their first meeting, Tom and Courtney, he told Courtney that he had intentions of mobilizing his search to Seattle, or like the Lake Washington area. At this time, she did not argue, but she did decline accompanying him due to having business in LA, which her attorney, Rosemary Carroll, would later say she actually did not have any business in LA, so she didn't know why Courtney didn't want to go. This Rosemary Carroll character, she's a recurring one too, and we'll get there. So Tom Grant, the PI, and Dylan, Kurt's best friend that I mentioned earlier, they went to the Lake Washington house either that day or the next day. That Tom, he flew up to Seattle to move the search to Washington. So he and Dylan, they went to Kurt's house, the Lake Washington house, and they both searched the house for Kurt and did not find him anywhere. But during the search, Tom found a bottle of Rohypnol hidden between the mattresses in Kurt and Courtney's bedroom. So yeah, they searched the house up and down. Like there was nothing, or Kurt wasn't there at all. And that's the same day, April 6th, that Courtney accidentally left her backpack at Rosemary Carroll's house, which we will come back to in a little bit.
No, let's go into it.
Tell us.
So the next day, Courtney told Tom that Kurt had left a note for her that he had written while in the recovery center. She claimed that he had left the letter underneath her pillow on her side of the bed in the Lake Washington house. And all these recordings are on that documentary, that Soaked in Bleach documentary, so most of this is literally straight from her mouth. So on one of the recordings, Tom confronted Courtney, was basically like, "You're lying." So he confronted her and he told her that he had found no such note anywhere near or on her bed.
And this was recorded?
Yes. This was all audio. This is all tapes. He told her that he and Dylan had searched the bedroom extensively. They pulled the bed apart if they found the roofies and the mattresses.
Yeah.
So he told her that they searched the bedroom, they looked in that area, and the only thing that they found in the bed was the bottle of Rohypnol. And Courtney, she was adamant in her claims that Kurt had left her a note under her pillow at that house, and she said she had even showed it to the police sergeant. So I don't know. And she said he had put it in a big manila envelope, and it had her name on the outside. Which, if you're searching someone's house and you toss over the bed or turn the bed or whatever, looking for something, obviously a manila envelope is going to jump out at you. Like, it's not small by any means.
Okay, but was she saying that she showed the police because he was missing?
I guess.
She showed them the note? Would that be anything that they would want to maybe keep?
As I have no idea what the letter said. Honestly,
okay,
or what it supposedly said. I have no idea. My guess is if it ever came out that letter was a real thing, Courtney would try to say it was a suicide note. I don't know. Knowing her history, hearing all this. So I believe it was that same day or around those couple days time frame, Courtney got arrested. I think it was like drug possession or something like that, of course. So Dylan and Tom, they go back to the Lake Washington house again to continue looking for Kurt. And this time they found a 2-page letter on the staircase inside the home that had not been there when they were there previously. The note It appeared to have been written by Callie, and I do have it pulled up here on Google. The note says, Kurt, I can't believe you managed to be in this house without me noticing. You're a asshole for not calling Courtney and at least letting her know that you're okay. She's in a lot of pain. What does this say? Anyway, she had another accident. Now she's in the hospital again. She's your wife and she loves you and you have a child together. Get it together, or at least tell her you're okay, or she is going to die. It's not fair, man. Do something now. That was supposedly, I guess it was supposed to be from Callie. So, Rosemary, the sassy attorney, it was Tom and Dylan that found this note. I don't know. I know that they picked it up and read it, but it's to my understanding that they put it back where they found it. So they didn't take it. I don't know if Tom wrote down or took pictures or what. But he told Rosemary about it, and she agreed that it sounded like the note was a phony, like fake.
Right.
And she's on recording as saying, quote, "It didn't sound like a sincere letter. I thought Callie wrote it because he knew that Kurt was dead." End quote. So, April 8th, Kurt's body is discovered by an electrician who was at the property to install outdoor lighting. I guess like security lighting. Yeah. According to Tom, Dylan never once mentioned checking the greenhouse during the times they had gone to the house looking for Kurt, which the greenhouse is not like probably what you guys are thinking. The greenhouse, I guess it was more like a bonus room in like modern lingo. From what I've seen and read about it, it was just a room over the garage.
Oh, okay.
I think maybe it wasn't, but I don't know if it was connected to the house.
I was about to say, wasn't it separate from like the main house though?
I think it was. I think the entrance was like you had to go up the stairs to the door. Like it was a second level room above the garage.
Yeah, and you had like, if I remember correctly, like the stairs to get in were like on the outside of it.
Yeah. So it was just this over the garage kind of room, but they called it the greenhouse. But originally, reports stated that Kurt had barricaded himself in the greenhouse by wedging a stool against the door. However, a simple push-button lock was all that sealed the room. There wasn't a stool barricading the door. So, if he had been murdered, basically, the person who did it could have just locked the door from the inside and then walked out and left.
Right.
Yeah.
So there wasn't anything, the stool was not a thing. It was also reported that he left his license out for identification purposes in case he was extremely disfigured. But the true story behind that is that a police officer removed the license from his wallet where it was then photographed. So Kurt, he didn't leave his driver's license out for the, whoever found him. The gun, shells, and suicide note did not have any discernible fingerprints. And the note appeared to be a forgery. And the note, I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but the note, it's like, I've got it pulled up on Google as well. The first, like, 3/4 of it is, I mean, it's not, like, terrible handwriting. It's just, it looks normal, I guess. It's kind of close together. It's like, it just looks like he's writing a letter, like, no biggie. But the content of it reads like, not like a suicide note. It reads like he's tired of fame and he's quitting the band, pretty much. It's nothing, to me, it doesn't read like someone who's checking out. Like,
right.
It just sounded like he was quitting music. But then the last part of it, the last quarter of the page or so, it got kind of weird. Like, he wrote this long, like, poetic thing about, I guess, fame not really being what he thought it was going to be, and how it doesn't bring him joy anymore, and he's done with it, it's not fun. And then he signs it, and he's like, whatever, love, whatever, Kurt Cobain. And then under that, on like the last quarter of the page, there's like this really wayward handwriting that it looks like it was added on to the note after the fact. And that's when it turns into kind of suicide note territory. The last part of it, he signs it, peace, love, and empathy, Kurt Cobain. And then underneath, where it gets all weird, like the writing is very strangely spaced and erratic. He says, Frances and Courtney, I'll be at your altar. Please keep going, Courtney, for Frances, for her life, which will be so much happier without me. I love you, I love you. But like I said, it looks like that note, you can pull up that note on Google Images probably. It's just, it looks very added on. Like, it's like he wrote this thing announcing he was quitting music or quitting the band or whatever, and then whoever killed him added these little pieces after to make it sound like he was gonna kill himself.
I have a problem.
What?
Would he necessarily... I would understand if he was writing a suicide letter and he wanted to address his child that he was leaving behind. I get that. Would he necessarily want to say anything about Courtney, the woman who he was just asking to take out of his will and, you know, possibly separate and get a divorce from? I mean, that doesn't sound like...
It's very possible. Like, they sounded like they had a very high school relationship where it was just polar opposites from one day to the next. I mean, I honestly, you would think any logical human being wouldn't probably speak of their estranged significant other like that. And I don't know. I just can't say.
I mean, most definitely, like, I wouldn't, like, if, God forbid, anything happened to me and my husband, I wouldn't say anything disparaging about him in front of Weldon for sure, but I don't know. That seems odd to me.
What's strange to me is that the normal part of the note, where it just looks like he wrote it, like, no big deal, there's a piece of it that says, I have a goddess of a wife who sweats ambition and empathy, and a daughter who reminds me too much of what I used to be, full of love and joy, kissing every person she meets because everyone is good and will do her no harm. And I'm like, same as you, I'm like, if they were on their way out, why is he writing that he has a goddess of a wife? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But that's not even the part that looks forged, so it's like he did write that at some point. But if he was murdered and someone pulled that from a journal or something, there's no telling when he wrote that.
Right.
So there's that.
I'm looking, obviously, I've pulled it up here. I'm looking over it now, and
it's weird.
I see what you mean by the main text. That looks like I see what you mean by the first sentence or two. But then after that, it sort of gets very jittery and jittery all over the place. But then the bit that's added on the end, I see what you mean. It is very like, well, it doesn't match the rest. Is it meant to be there? Is it not meant?
And the content of it, I mean, if you even just skim over the first major portion of it, it does not read like a suicide note. It just sounds like he's done with music. Or at least the fame side of it. It doesn't sound like he's planning on killing himself.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to quit the band or whatever, there's many more ways you can do about it than, well.
I see Amber's pulling it up too. It's a very bizarre looking letter when you look at it.
It doesn't...
This is, okay, I'm glad you guys are looking at this because I'm not done with this note. I have a whole, like, section later on based on the note alone.
I'll keep it open.
So,
please go.
I'll keep it rolling. So Tom, he went to the Lake Washington house the day that Kurt's body was found. He requested, when he got there, to speak to the lead detective on the case or the investigation because he had been in the home the last 2 nights before that looking for Kurt. You know, like, if there had been a disturbance of evidence or anything like that, obviously the police would want to talk to him because he had been in Kurt's house looking for him. And he told them that, you know, he had important information regarding the investigation, but the lead detective declined his offer.
That's... Did he say why? Or did he just straight up said nah?
If I remember correctly, so what happened was Tom went to the house. Obviously, it was guarded off. They had the caution tape up, and there were, regular police officers out front, like keeping the public at bay. And he approached one of the regular police officers and was like, "Hey, can I talk to your lead detective? I was at this house last couple of nights looking for Kurt. I've been inside the house. I have important information about this case. Can you see if he'll be willing to talk to me?" And so the police officer went to the lead detective and told him, "This guy wants to talk to you. He knows a lot about what's going on." And then the detective was like, "No, I don't want to talk to him right now. Tell him if he wants to talk to me, he can call back tomorrow after 3. Call into the office." So
Right.
there's that.
Sounds kind of pissy.
Yeah.
They ruled Kurt's death a suicide the same day that they found him. And
That's
I don't know how it
weird.
is over there, but deaths are generally not ruled a suicide until all evidence has been processed and all
Yeah.
necessary reports have been completed, like toxicology, victimology, all that. Causes of death are also never determined by police or homicide detectives. And that's what happened in this situation.
Does it... I might be jumping the gun here, might be again. Does it state did the coroner estimate the time of death?
I think the best that they could guess was that he died on April 5th. I don't know about what time, but that would have been 3 days before he was found.
Yeah. Right.
So April 5th. So let's see, where was I? So currently, Tom Grant, he still does not believe that the police were involved in the conspiracy about him being murdered. He does think that the police were being set up by Courtney and her having built a false history of suicidal behavior. Because...
Like they had already been fooled.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So it's like she gives them this history that she's kind of embellished, and then he turns up dead from what looks like a suicide. It's like, oh, duh, that's a suicide.
Right.
Like, we've heard about this guy. Like, we knew this was going to happen. There were 4 rolls of film from the crime scene that they were not developed and sat in evidence for 20 years until 2014.
What?
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember when that dropped too.
Yeah. And when Tom finally got to talk to the chief or whoever about Kurt Cobain, he went to the police and he finally got to talk to someone. That person told him that we don't develop rolls of film when it's a suicide. I don't know why, but that's what he was told. So,
Okay.
But evidence
That-
is evidence.
yes, that film was finally developed in 2014, most of which is still not public. They did not make most of it public. I think they released a few of the photos, but not nearly all of
I was
them.
gonna say, was any of it still any good?
Apparently. But the detective, I don't know if he was detective at the time of Kurt's death, but the one in 2014, Detective Mike Sisinski stated, quote, "It's a suicide. This is a closed case," end quote.
Alright.
But because of negligent investigation on the Seattle Police Department's part, Kurt was cremated less than a week after being found. The police waited 30 days to process the shotgun for fingerprints. They gave Courtney Love the shotgun to be melted down, and they allowed the greenhouse crime scene to be torn down and destroyed. So
So they
basically,
just got rid of all evidence.
yeah. So basically, this entire, if you're on like the conspiracy theory side of this case, all of this boils down to extremely sloppy police work. And it doesn't seem like, in my opinion, like they were working for Courtney or like they were in on it too. It just seems like they did not know what they were doing at all.
Like they didn't even.
Like
It
they
just sounds like the minimal amount of effort was put forth.
yes.
They should
So-
walk in, see it. Yep, alright, yep. We know what this is. Wrap it up. Let's go home.
Yeah. I don't, and usually when
Yeah.
it's a prominent figure or a celebrity like that, they take their time determining and announcing, like, the cause of death.
But no one gave a f*** about grunge kids back then.
Kurt was a superstar when he died. Like, for
Yeah,
real.
but it was the lifestyle he lived as well.
yeah.
So
Well, there was also an
they
FBI
all-
agent who said the easiest way to murder, like, to get away with murder is to murder a junkie. Pretty much.
Mm.
I mean, how hard would it be to make that look like a suicide?
Yeah.
But
It's
Oh,
so
this is
sad.
this is my last page. So in terms of the toxicology report showed that the amount of heroin in Kurt's system was roughly 70 times that of a lethal dose for an average person, non-drug user. 70 times.
Holy shit.
In terms, it was 3 times the lethal dose for even the most severe drug addict. And a lot of the forensic people interviewed for Soaked in Bleach, they said never in the history of, documentation in terms of these kinds of things has someone taken that amount of heroin and, been able to do something after, such as, picking up a shotgun and killing themselves.
I was about to
would
say,
you
would
even
he
be
even
able to
have the
do-
capability?
And in the Kurt and Courtney documentary by Nick Broomfield, he apparently interviewed or asked some forensic pathologist, something or another guy about it, who did his own experiment, and like he gave a patient or something like the same amount that Kurt had, and the guy was like balancing on one leg, and like it was totally possible that Kurt took this amount of heroin and still did that. But the problem with that was that this doctor was using methadone, not heroin, and he gave it to him in a pill form, which Kurt, he used needles, so it's intravenous, it's an immediate effect.
Right.
It's not, waiting around for
Yeah,
something to
it's-
happen.
No comparison whatsoever.
Yeah, 0.
None.
And there's also, according to the forensic pathologists, their combined studies showed no correlation between heroin and suicide. Which is also something I've heard. I've seen and read like former heroin addicts. They're like, no, that's like the last thing you want to do whenever you're high on heroin. Like, you feel so good, like you don't want to kill yourself.
Nikki Sixx Heroin Diaries. That's a good book if you've never read it.
I like how I
Good
said,
plug, good plug.
I'm agreeing, like I know what it feels like to be on heroin. Like
I do have some additional notes, but I think I'll just do those at the end. So I'll get into the suicide note first.
Let me pull
So-
it back out.
There was an article run by Us Weekly, like right after Kurt's death, and it supposedly contained a quote from his suicide note, and they quoted it as saying, "I can't live my life like this any longer," end quote. But that phrase was not in his suicide note, and the only people at that time with information or access to his note were Tom Grant, Courtney, and the police. So Tom thinks that Courtney leaked this quote to the press to further push the suicide narrative.
Yeah.
Rosemary, she was quoted as saying, "That suicide note is a pastiche of things that he had written before and of someone copying his handwriting. This is my theory, and it's a lot of intuition. I think all of that weirdness with Callie, living in the house for several days while there was Kurt's corpse in the other place, I think it had to do with the suicide note." I mean, this dude, if you think about it, if you think about everything I've told you, that guy, Callie, he was living in the house when Kurt was dead in the greenhouse.
How
This
could
dude
he-
somehow didn't notice a shotgun blast when he's living in the house.
And I mean,
it's
is
kind of a hard
he
thing
just,
to miss.
And you said that they did what in the greenhouse? Did you specify what the greenhouse was used for?
From what I heard, it was just a nothing room, like a junk room, I guess. I don't even know that it was used really for anything. Almost like an attic situation, I guess. I don't know that they regularly
I just don't
used it.
understand. Like, if you know that you're looking for this person, and if you claim to have looked in that house, you would check every inch of it.
Yeah.
You would go in the garage. You would go in the green. You would go through any nook and cranny that you knew about that house if you were truly looking for someone.
Yeah.
That's why the Dylan thing is kind of problematic, because Tom didn't know what he was looking for. He's a private investigator. It was his first time at the house. They went on a really dark, rainy night, and it has been confirmed by other people who like went out and like tested visibility of that house at night. If you went at night, like pitch black, and it's raining, the greenhouse doesn't jump out at you. Like, it's not something easily visible. So for Tom Grant to have missed it, it's like not a big thing. But the Dylan thing is just, it's weird. It's like, oh, I'll get into that in a second. I'm gonna go ahead with Courtney at first was not willing to give up the suicide note, and Tom ended up having to trick her into giving him a copy of it. So, in terms of her backpack, her forgotten backpack, who remembers that?
I do.
Yes,
I do.
yes.
I do.
Yep.
So, Rosemary, on recording, admitted to Tom, and these recordings of this specific situation with her, like, she sounds like frantic. Like, she sounds like totally freaked out. I encourage you guys to listen if you have the time. But she told Tom that Courtney had left her backpack at Rosemary's house on April 6th. Rosemary went through its contents and found sample sheets where it looked like Courtney was practicing forging someone's handwriting. She noted that Courtney had also jotted down on a random corner of the paper, "Get arrested," which is what she did while Tom Grant was searching for Kurt.
Almost like a checklist sort of thing.
It's like, get arrested. That's going to be my alibi.
Yeah.
What the?
This sounds so wrong.
So, when Rosemary realized that Tom had been recording their conversations while she had expressed doubt about the suicide, she said, quote, "Oh, that's just my theory," end quote, and then she hung up. And then, after she told Tom about finding the forgery samples and her theories, she denied providing assistance and information to Tom.
Why?
How can you deny it if it's
He
on-
had it recorded.
been
Like,
recorded?
he had so much recorded from Rosemary. And then her office sent Tom a letter threatening a lawsuit and possible criminal prosecution. And Tom responded and, like, urged her to talk to the cops, like, talk to the authorities. Because you guys, I don't know if you know or not, but after Kurt Cobain killed himself like that, there were a slew of copycat suicides. I guess, I don't know if it was a lot of young adults or teenagers or whatever, but there were a lot of suicides that happened after that, and the suicide notes would make reference to Kurt Cobain lyrics or, something along those lines. And
Wow.
to date, well, as of 2015 when Soaked in Bleach came out, there were at least 68 known copycat suicides.
Wow.
So he's, like, urging Rosemary, go to the cops, tell them what you know, like, let these kids stop killing themselves because they think that their idol killed himself the same way. Like, put an end to this. Pretty much.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
That's-
I haven't even gotten into my additional notes yet, don't worry. So,
I need a refill.
Heidi Harrelson is a forensic document examiner. She examined Kurt's suicide note in comparison with Courtney's practice sheet, and she did deduce that some of the letters on the bottom of the note, the suspicious part of his note, were the same as some of the letters Courtney had written on the practice forgery sheet.
Okay, as someone who's only been looking at this for just a few minutes, I already can, like, kind of see that, like, some of the letters don't match up.
Right. And if you can probably Google that sample sheet from Courtney. If you look at the sample sheet, like, a lot of her letters do match up with that last portion of his note. So, that's it for the note. So, just some additional things. Tom Grant said that most of the time he spent with Courtney, she was either already high or she was actively doing drugs or shooting up, whatever.
Yep.
He said that she spoke of divorce often. She told him if Kurt divorced her and there was a custody battle, she would win with ease, and that Kurt wouldn't even put up a fight. She also told him that she did not trust Callie and that he was one of the best liars she had ever met. So it's like, why the f*** are you leaving your infant daughter with him then? Weird. According to Rosemary, dear confused Rosemary, she heard Courtney tell Dylan to check the greenhouse the first night that he and Tom went to Kurt's home. She overheard, I guess, them on the phone. She heard Courtney tell Dylan, check the greenhouse.
Right.
So,
Did
this
she, though?
Well, I believe Rosemary, but the whatever communication there was between Courtney and Dylan, I don't understand it, because Rosemary's like, she told him to check the greenhouse, but then Dylan took it upon himself to not check the greenhouse when he went. So I don't know what's going on there. So another interesting part of the story. So after Kurt was found and, all that, Tom went back to the Lake Washington house to interview Dylan, who I guess was staying there at the time. He wasn't really expecting Courtney to be there, I guess, for some reason. But Courtney let him in, and he said that she made small talk for about half an hour before he finally got kind of impatient. And he was like, yo, where the f*** is Dylan? Like, I'm here to talk to him. I'm not here to talk to you. So she went upstairs to get Dylan and came back down with him a little while later. And Tom noticed that Dylan was extremely incapacitated. Like, dude could barely sit up. So Tom was like, are you high right now? Did you just shoot up? Like, what's going on? And Dylan told him that he had just taken heroin in the moments before coming downstairs. So Tom believes that Courtney went up there to encourage him to shoot up before the interview so he wouldn't be of any use during the questioning.
Yep.
It's all,
seems very likely.
Yeah, it's all so placed conveniently.
In the time following Kurt's death, Courtney paid Dylan's rent and gave him money to buy heroin. So, even though he was Kurt's best friend when Kurt died, Courtney was the cash cow, so his loyalty moved from Kurt to Courtney.
Right.
And also, after Kurt's death, Courtney later got Callie a lucrative job at Geffen Records.
Oh.
Yes. Kurt's autopsy was completed the same day that his body was discovered, and its contents were never made public.
The same day?
Yes.
That
Tom encouraged Courtney, because at one point Courtney did kind of like play or like express that like maybe Callie had something to do with it. She started being like, oh, I've never really trusted him, like, and I think that he was there when Kurt was in the house, and just, I don't know.
That's just her trying to deflect off herself.
Yeah, and then Tom was like,
Allegedly.
okay. Right, allegedly. So, at that point, Tom was like, get a coroner's report, like, get the official coroner's report, tell Callie to go take a polygraph test, like, we'll figure this out. pretty much, even though from day one, Tom was like absolutely not on Courtney's side, even though he was on her payroll because he didn't trust her worth a So she said she would do that.
Don't blame him, really.
No.
Yeah.
No.
They set a date to meet up to exchange the coroner report. She never showed up, and she never gave him the report. So, so we're about to get even more interesting. This is just, it feels like it goes and goes and goes. So, when Nick Broomfield was making Kurt and Courtney, the documentary, in 1997, he interviewed a musician, Eldon Hoke, otherwise known as El Duce, which he was, I don't remember the band that he was in, but he was like one of those like shock rockers, like whatever. But he was interviewed for the documentary, and he claimed that Courtney had approached him to murder Kurt and make it look like a suicide. He said that he declined the offer, but that his friend, Alan, carried out the contract. Hoke passed a polygraph test by renowned expert Dr. Edward Gelb, who says Hoke absolutely told the truth. Get ready, you guys. It's about to get good.
Holy shit.
A week after Hoke spoke on camera for the documentary, he died after being, wait for it, run over by a train.
Oh, for
Okay.
Allegedly, Hoke's friend and fellow musician Alan Wrench was the last person to see him alive.
What?
Convenient.
It was later stated by a former bandmate that Hoke only made those claims as a publicity stunt.
No. Okay.
Any publicity is good publicity.
Right?
Oh. For somebody who is learning about this for the first time, it's very cut and dry as to where the hell it obviously stands.
I didn't even get, like, that, honestly, what I told you guys, it just scratches the surface. There's just so many inconsistencies, and one of the big arguments is, I guess, the placement of the gun at the time that Kurt died, which I'm not even gonna get into all that, because that's, like, one of the most common arguments is the way the gun, he was holding it, or it landed or something. I'm just like, I don't want to get into that right now.
I mean that too. I mean, that's
that's
just dipping into the
understandable.
science of how it would logically happen.
Okay, you know what? I wasn't going to say anything about the gun situation, but just a quick, just a little gloss over, okay? He was sitting on the ground. He was holding the shotgun, like, facing himself, obviously, and the way it was when he died, he was holding the barrel with his left hand, like they said it was a vice-like grip with his left hand on the barrel. And that gun, the exit chamber for the shells was on his right side, but the shell, whenever it came out, or whatever it expelled, it was on his left side. So the trajectory did not match the gunfire at all. They said the only way it would have ended up on his left side was if it had hit some sort of obstruction on the right side and ricocheted, but there was nothing there. That's all I'll say about the gun. That's a much talked about and very in-depth thing.
There.
I have a lot of questions, but I will be looking into it myself afterwards. Because I fired a couple of shotguns, and it all depends on the model and the make. So yeah, I'm gonna dig into that afterwards.
And the fact that, like, I know, like, he was such a humongous heroin user. Like, it was just absolutely insane. I get that, but to have taken as much as he did. And then it's like, okay, even his sleeves were rolled back down. It was like, he did that, rolled his sleeves back down, put his heroin kit away. Like, he did all this stuff and then managed to shoot himself while he was on 3 times the lethal dose of heroin. And immediately, not even like a waiting period for it to like set in. Like, it was just immediate.
I don't buy it.
I don't either. And I think it was, I don't know if it was when Soaked in Bleach came out or if it was Kurt and Courtney, but one of those documentaries, Courtney, she issued a cease and desist to the filmmaker, which I'm like, I mean, I could see that going either way if you're guilty or innocent, because Soaked in Bleach made her look bad. Bad. So
I feel like I've watched it, but I may need to rewatch.
I rewatched it today for a refresher course. Last time I watched it was a couple years ago, and it used to be on Netflix, but it's not anymore. So I had to splurge $3.99 to rent it on Amazon Prime. But whatever.
Oh, sorry. I just googled the weapon. It's like, that's a hell of a long shotgun.
That's
to...
exactly the first thing
that's
that
another
I come
thing.
They
up with.
already disproved that. Because that was another argument. They already disproved that whole thing. Like, they did a whole thing with a cop sitting like he was sitting with the gun, and it works. But the shell, that's the issue here.
Yeah.
You
The
said
shell.
that.
That's why that's why I wanted to have a look at it, because I know not every shotgun expels a shell
Yeah, that's the first thing that came
when
to
you shoot.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to see what it looked like. And yes, it does have the open chamber for the shell to eject out.
And you said that
It's
was
just-
on
yeah,
his.
as you said, the way he would have had to hold it to do it, yeah, the shell should have gone to his right.
He was supposedly sitting, like, he was sitting on the floor with the gun. It was like, I guess the barrel obviously was up here. The butt of the gun was like between his legs.
Right.
So, like, that's how it's supposed, and he was gripping the barrel with the left hand and pulled the trigger with his right hand. But yeah, the shell should not have gone over to his left hand side.
Did they say anywhere that did you say previously that the exit part of where the shell would come out was on his right side, or was it on his? Did they say anything about that?
The shell itself was on his left. It was on a jacket. It landed on a jacket on his left side.
Okay, but they did
Yeah.
say right. Okay.
But there were
Okay.
no obstructions on his right side that would have caused it to ricochet. Like, there was nothing on his right side. There was a jacket on his left, nothing on his right. And the shell landed on his
Okay.
left.
Okay.
Which, the only thing that they could deduce from that landing point was that the shotgun, whenever he fired it, it must have flipped. 'Cause that happens.
Not possible.
Not the way that he was, the way that he was gripping it when he died, it didn't flip. Like, he was holding it the
Yeah.
way it was.
Yeah, well,
Like-
if they said he had a death grip on it, then
That wouldn't,
Yeah,
it wouldn't have gone anywhere.
it's not moving.
So, yeah.
Wow.
That's, yeah.
That's from, like I said, from hearing about this for the first time, learning everything from the very beginning, it seems very, to me, it seems like Courtney has played a massive part in this since way beforehand. To me,
And
that's
her
what it
and
seems
Callie
like.
need to be locked the up.
The
Allegedly.
the opinion on it is just, it's so split. Like, he had so many people who were like, he was not suicidal. Like, he was a normal person. There was nothing, nothing wrong in that aspect. There was nothing like that going on. And then there are other people who have come forward and they're like, oh, you need to drop it. It was totally suicide. Like, I think his first manager said he was not suicidal, but then there was like another manager later on in the picture who he was interviewed recently, a couple years ago, and he was like, you guys need to let it go. These conspiracy theories are crazy. It absolutely was suicide. Like, I had to talk him down off the ledge before. Like, he killed himself. Let it go.
So, are there any of, like, his like close family members, like his mother or, you know, whoever, that may have like pointed fingers towards Courtney. I mean, I know that Courtney.
Oh yeah, even
remember
Courtney's
correct-
own dad.
What?
Well, I was about to.
jeez.
I was about to say, like, if I remember correctly, her and her daughter aren't really on good terms now. I
Well-
don't think. I'm not sure why.
Well, Courtney has always been a bit of a wild card. I mean,
Right.
like, I'm sure you remember when we were growing up, it was like she was showing up to award shows high off of her ass on
Drunk.
one thing or another.
Like
And-
getting on stage, boasting about being sober,
Yeah.
but slurring all her words, and her clothes being disheveled, and her makeup and hair a mess. So
She's been a hot mess our entire lives, so
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm not I want to say I could be wrong. This is alleged. I don't know, but I want to say she's lost custody of Francis at least once before. But I mean, I do keep an eye on Francis on like Instagram. She seems like a totally normal 20-something-year-old girl. I mean, for everything she's been through, she came out pretty okay. So
right.
But in terms of their family, the two that jump out at me, or that I remember off the top of my head, it was like Courtney's dad, or stepdad, or dad, or some kind of father. He thinks that she had a hand in it, and then Kurt's grandfather, he felt like it was not a suicide. But there are a number of people close to both sides that felt like that there was some foul play involved, for sure.
Yeah. I'm definitely leaning feeling more towards the foul play aspect of it.
Oh yeah, no,
There's a-
definitely.
There's a lot of strong evidence there, which
Courtney is lucky because all the evidence, or supposed evidence,
That's
is
what I'm saying, like,
circumstantial.
Yeah, like all of this that that we're talking about, it's all very, very circumstantial, and I mean, at least within the U.S., you can't convict, you can't prosecute. None like if the physical evidence is not there.
Wanna bet? Have you met Scott Peterson?
Well, yeah, true.
I was about to say, all of her evidence might be circumstantial,
Yeah.
but that didn't keep Scott Peterson off of the death row.
It did not. It absolutely did not. You're right. I misspoke. But I mean, the fact to me that there is just that it was handled so.
It's
just
painted in
blasé,
such a
like oh, this is
a
an
divisive
obvious
way.
suicide. Yeah, like the fact
like
that there
whoever
wasn't-
did it. Ugh.
like because I mean, even in your standard suicide, there are certain procedures and things that you still need to do, and you still need to process as correct evidence, even if it is
Yeah.
clearly what it looks like. Like the fact that wasn't done at all, like what the
Obviously, I didn't personally know him, but based on what I read and the way that he talked about his daughter, I just, he had spoken about growing up without a good father or a good father figure, something like that, and how he would never do that to his child. I have a hard time believing that he would kill himself if he felt like that. I mean... I don't know. I don't know his family history. I don't know if his dad was abusive. I don't know if his dad just wasn't in the picture. But that is something that he talked about, where he's like, my dad, he wasn't a good dad. And I cannot imagine, having a kid and not being a good dad to them, or doing what my dad did to me.
Right.
So...
And I mean,
Yeah.
even speaking as someone who, me, myself, personally suffer from depression and like that, like, I totally understand the idea of, making certain decisions and what you do because of the fact that you have a child to raise, and not a whole lot of people are okay with the idea of leaving their kid without someone.
yeah.
I don't know. I've always been fascinated with this one because, like, it happened right as my memories were starting to kind of take hold. Like, you're like 3 or 4 years old, and it's like that's the first time that you really remember stuff. Like, those are your first real memories from childhood. And that's always been one of those that I've thought about forever, because it's one of my first memories from being a kid.
I totally remember like seeing, like, I think it was Kurt Loder at the time.
Yeah,
was one of those. Yeah, like I remember even hearing his voice talking about it on MTV News. But I mean, at the time that wasn't enough for me to like grasp and understand. But
Ryan's gotta pee.
I sent in a message for a reason, Jess.
Oh, poor Ryan.
Well, now that it's out in the open, you guys carry on. I'm sorry, but I gotta.
Just grab the bottle.
Is he leaving us to go?
It's okay, because I left a couple of weeks ago to go refresh my drink, so it's fine. I am just, it's really stunning that I'm just picking the most depressing topics ever this season. It's great.
And I just picked the weirdest.
I'm telling you, like, you guys have it so easy with the shit that you picked. Like, the stuff I've done so far, it's just so mentally draining and taxing, and I'm just like, by the time it's over, I'm like, oh my god, my brain, like, hurts, and I'm very sad. Like, oh my god.
And I'll be honest with you, I haven't touched our finale in terms
I haven't
of
either. I mean,
yet,
it's not something.
I am dreading it.
It's not something that like we need to be like putting all of our time and energy into for the next couple weeks. Like this Kurt Cobain thing, I literally started researching like 3 days ago, so no biggie.
I'm just not looking forward to it.
I'm not looking forward.
That one is going to be
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to my. Oh, I don't want to say it on here. I'm not looking forward to my last episode because that is such a dig. Like, oh my god, it is such a big dig.
Which, I mean, I guess we could go ahead and say that, so because of the fact that we need to, technically, I know next week it would be me, but it can't be me.
Right.
So, next week should be Ryan.
Ryan.
What?
Hope you're prepared, mate.
Wait, yeah. I'm next week, but it's...
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
me and Amber are going tandem.
Yeah, on the finale, because Jess's last episode kind of segues into mine.
Yeah.
It's a good note to leave on.
Well,
I'm so tired of these dark digs. God, this last one's going to be so dark.
That's why I'm saying I'm kind of not looking forward into doing our research, but I mean, it's got to be done.
And then what was a topic for next season?
Man,
I was toying with the idea of like unsolved, like, I don't know if I should do like unsolved mysteries or unsolved disappearances, but like something along those lines. I was only doing that because there's like a situation here with a missing woman and it's not gotten very much publicity in the media, I guess. So I reached out to her Facebook page, that they did like this whole Facebook page where it's like, they're making arrangements to have search parties and stuff like that, and I reached out to them and I was like, do you mind if I talk about this on my podcast? Don't feel like it's gotten a whole lot of attention or as much as it should have, so I'd like to get the word out, and they have not responded.
So I'm next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then it goes Dougie, then Jess, and then me and Jess will close us out.
Well, I'm so not looking forward to mine. God.
That's me up because I thought I had 2 weeks to prepare.
No, baby, you got one.
Well, at least I'm off. Like, I've got nothing else to do. So
it's like I just told Amber, you don't need 2 weeks to prepare. I just started preparing mine 3 days ago.
This is me.
He needs extra help. He only has 2 brain cells, and they live in another country.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
I hope my eyeball didn't do the wonky thing when I was reading earlier. I hate that.
The wonky thing?
Didn't notice.
I feel like I have a lazy eye.
Oh, I know.
And
I
sometimes
have
when
one
I'm
of
like looking at something that looks kind of like I don't know. Anyway.
Okay. So I think this will be our longest one, will it?
No.
Was it?
We're at 132. The longest one's 140.
Jesus!
8 minutes before you beat it.
Did I say a lot of ums this time?
Quick, cut it now.
No.
Yes!
Don't know.
Can't say I noticed.
I feel like we're all just kind of brain tired after this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
That was, that was wild.
That was a lot to...
I did not know, and I did not know any of that. So, yeah.
But I will say, my final thought: Courtney Love, not innocent in the least bit. I don't know.
Definitely.
I don't know what exactly she did, but she had a hand in something. My personal opinion, allegedly.
She hired someone. I absolutely think that she hired someone.
Yeah, I don't believe it was suicide at all.
No.
It doesn't sound like a suicide.
So, next week on Jarred, we're all going to read a collective email from the Jarred email that Courtney Love has issued a cease and desist to us. We'll all read it together in sync. It's fine.
Oh, dear me.
Okay, but let me find out that we have enough reach that Courtney Love even gives a damn. So... Let me not
well,
be...
if we tag it right...
Yeah.
Let me not be hateful. I just think it is unfair that she has lived this long and Kurt did not. That's all I will say.
We'll put the hashtag Courtney lied.
That's a good one.
That's going in there now.
That's a good one.
What did you say?
So, hashtag
Courtney
Courtney lied.
lied.
Oh.
So, if anyone wants to use my Amazon Prime, I have rented Soaked in Bleach, and I think it's good for 30 days. Actually, no. It's only good for 2 days after you start watching it. So, anyway, not the listeners. Listeners, do not inbox me for my Amazon Prime. That offer was to my castmates only. That's not to any of you guys.
It'll be expired by the time they hear it anyway. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm gonna be like in the inbox, like, oh my god, what's your Amazon Prime? No.
Amazon's going, why are you logging in from 16 different countries?
Yeah.
Why did I just dropped the F-bomb for no reason at all?
Thank
and
you,
Ryan's
Jess.
just gonna
Just
be like...
an unnecessary piece of edit I'm now going to have to go back and do.
You sound a lot like Weldon right now.
Did we ever explain the censorship? Like, to
Yes.
the Spotify listeners?
fire
We did?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah,
Just so they're not like, why are they trying to, like, whatever. Okay. I wanted to make a joke, but I feel it's very inappropriate, so I'll just make it after we close it out.
That's fine.
Okay.
So you can follow today's cast. I honestly don't know why I'm plugging any of us, because we do not post at all.
Uh-oh.
Oh my god.
What the is this?
I think someone was onto us.
Yeah, I think they did.
What is... We're all still recording, right?
Yeah, I'm still recording. I've not changed anything.
I'm not recording now.
Now we're all gonna hear each other in the background of our recordings. Oh my god. I'm just gonna close it out. Jarred is sponsored by 5 the Gamer, so for all of your multifunctional headset needs, head on over to 5thegamer.com and apply Jarred20 during checkout, and you'll receive 10% off your order. We're also partnered with xtiffy.com, so for all of your Grand Theft Auto outfit needs, head on over to xtiffy.com for the components for those outfits. Thank you, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.